Thursday morning, and welcome to Drive Time, the best, worst show ever, where good morning is gold. Labor Day weekend in the books, 4-day work week ahead. Wish it could be that way every week. Good morning, King Kane. Good morning, Johnny. Tracy still in. Good morning to you. Good morning, Darlene. Good morning, Miss Gail. Good morning, Donald. Timmy Wiggins in. Good morning to you. Good morning, Kim. Gina Merchant in. Good morning, Gina. Mitch Redash. Good morning, Mitch. And good morning, Kenwood.
Morning, DJ. And as we were kind of somewhat discussing, it's amazing how fair Whopper really is.
I told you it'd been updated.
I mean, it's been updated?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, coming into the season, we wrote some new code for it. And
yeah.
And
I mean, I'll tell you what,
hit it in the nose. Hit it in the nose.
Hit it right on the nose. As I said, I was a little bit. I didn't know that the FS, and you even said this, the FSU LSU was a toss up, but Whopper got it right. Not only to get it right, it like
Whopper's three things: it's fair, it's fluid, and it's fair.
And it's 5-0 right now. That's what, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but that was pretty impressive.
Florida State looked great, did they not?
They did, and I'm trying to figure out, like I was telling you, is Florida State all that good, or was LSU just not all that good, and maybe not hitting on all cylinders yet? Or
I think LSU has a pretty good football team. I don't think they're world beaters necessarily, but I mean, I think the thing that impressed me was I didn't think things went well for Florida State early in the game. Dropped a couple of passes, a couple of tough calls that went against them. But my God, they just kind of just played through it, hung in there, and took control of that thing, and certainly looked the part Sunday.
Yes, they absolutely did, and the one big thing that I kept going back to, typically LSU starts off a little slow, every year, but did you see all the comments? They're already calling for that coach. They want his job already.
I said that's a tough profession to be in, man. I mean,
I won't tell you, it's brutal.
You think Dabo's seat's a little warm this morning?
Oh man,
I mean, they got clobbered. Now they had a couple of fumbles down there in the red zone that could have changed that game, but my gosh, they just, I don't know. It's funny to me how now that everybody can cheat, how
even everybody has got.
It's crazy.
I mean,
isn't that weird? I mean, Missouri last week, signed a 5-star defensive tackle. 5-star defensive tackles, you can make an argument, are the most coveted position players on a roster. And Missouri got a commitment from a 5-star defensive tackle. And you know who he chose Missouri over?
Who?
Georgia and Oklahoma. So let me guess. This young man grew up just dreaming of being a Mizzou Tiger. Had nothing to do with a bag of money.
No.
Had nothing to do with a bag of money.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
when was the last time Missouri went head-to-head with Georgia and Oklahoma for a player, any player, and got him?
I would think that'd be never.
Never. It's never.
And what's even... Well, I'll get to that in a second. Good morning, PW. Paul Crumpton in this morning with us. Good morning, Paul. Let's see who else here. Charles Shoemake. Good morning, Charles. Hot Rod. War Eagle. They look pretty good up there, didn't they?
Yeah. We played a pretty bad football team, I'm quite certain.
Morning, Fuquay.
But, it was clean.
Yeah.
Had my buddy Trent Davidson in Buffalo Rock hooked me and my brother up with some nice tickets. We enjoyed the day. Let me tell you one thing that happened up there, though. And, Auburn ceases to amaze me on the things that sometimes we do up there. And we can get to all this soon enough. But we go in, we have really good seats. So we go in the stadium early to take it all in. They open up the gates 2 hours before kickoff, and we're in there shortly thereafter. I want to watch the bird fly. I want to get all of it. On the Jumbotron, they're showing a football game on the Jumbotron, and I'm seeing the recruits down on the field, and I'm watching Auburn during pregame. You know what game they're showing?
What?
The Colorado game. And I'm sitting here, and I'm looking. There's probably, I would say there was 60 recruits and their families down on the field. And they're out there, they are locked in on the Jumbotron. They could care less what's going on, on the field. And I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, we're kind of quasi recruiting for Colorado. Yeah. I turn it off. Do anything. Play Gilligan's Island, play MASH, anything than drawing attention to what Coach Prime is doing out there. Because let me tell you something. He's doing big things.
Listen.
He said what he was going to do. He said it.
Oh, he did, and he said it afterwards as well.
Yeah, and he did it.
Look, for anybody that's got any doubt that man is on to something, and I don't blame him for calling out those haters. Do you? I mean, honestly, his kid goes out there, throws for 500
school record
and 10 yards.
School record.
School first game.
And does everybody know the name Travis Hunter? I mean,
let me tell you. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the player that chose to go to Jackson versus Bama.
Yeah, towards everybody. I mean, he was a known guy.
But I mean, he's
real.
Been recruited hard. By Bama.
He's the top 10 player in the country.
Right. Well,
he's real. But Auburn's sitting there just blasting Colorado. And I'm sitting there looking around. I'm like, turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off.
I mean, and what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I could understand it. It was one of my issues with that is Auburn didn't even want to talk to Deion. Auburn thought it was better to go get a guy that had, instead of one Louis worth of luggage. I don't know if this guy's got Louis luggage, but he's got a truckload of luggage.
I think they have 80 new players. You have 85
at Colorado.
You have 85 scholarship players on the team. They had, I think 80 is the number they turned over. And it's astonishing that that's what they put together in week one. Now, they got a long ways to go.
Sure.
Was TCU probably overinflated? Probably. Overvalued?
Sure.
Yeah, sure they were. But they still went out there as 21-point underdogs and went toe-to-toe with them and got it done there at the end. So
got it done.
They play Oregon in a couple of weeks. I think they got Nebraska this week. I think they'll probably beat Nebraska. I didn't necessarily think that going into last week. But they got Oregon, I think, in 3 weeks. And that'll be interesting.
Well, I'll say that. Good morning there, Matt Salter. Matt Salter said Roll Tide.
Hey.
They kind of started out a little slow.
Yeah.
The Tide did.
Yeah. When you have a quarterback controversy, it's it's kind of hard to get that thing dialed in.
Didn't they play 3?
Or 4? I don't know.
Something to that effect. Let's see. Chevy Ann, good morning to you. Look, the Cody Fowler says about the guy that started for Duke from the little town of Fairhope, Alabama.
Yeah, I read that, and I didn't fact check it, but I did read it, and I'm sitting there watching the guy throw it all over the yard.
Morning, Faith Burt.
They've got him ranked as a 3rd-rated quarterback prospect for this year's NFL draft.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Both of his parents graduated from Auburn.
The one thing that kind of gets me about the Deion Coach Prime situation, and I've been of this opinion for a long time, so this is not something I've just come up with. I look at Auburn and I say, why do y'all keep hiring coaches that my belief that they're just hiring to sit there long enough to wait till Coach Saban retires? I mean, that's what it appears that they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Think of the last 4 coaches. I say 4. Would it be 4? Starting with Chizik, Malzahn, Harsin, and now Freeze. I mean, think of those last 4 hires, and tell me Chizik came to Auburn with 5-19 record, and had it not been for Cam's daddy thinking probably don't need to send him to Mississippi State for whatever reason, I'm not saying anything wrong about that. I'm saying, but, well, think about it. Would they have had a team? They'd have been, at best, they'd have won 4 games that season.
Without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand that. But now, again, it was something to see, and certainly, it was, they showed up for sure. No, Miss Geraldine said, good morning, Miss Geraldine. I tell you what, I thought LSU was going to play I thought they were going to pretty much outplay them there the first, I'd say, quarter and a half?
Yeah, man, it was.
And then it just was like Florida State just turned it on or something.
Florida State was impressive.
Willie Bob. Good morning, Willie Bob. Look, I'm just not, I've never been a Hugh Freeze fan. I just don't think that that's the guy that you go put opposite the state of Nick Saban.
He did beat him twice.
I get that. But, and that was, as you said a while ago, that was back before everybody could openly cheat.
That's exactly right. Ole Miss had a little bit of a gang over there, mysteriously.
Yeah, they did.
Mysteriously.
So, all things being fair, which, like you said. But anyway, so y'all had a big weekend on the plains, and hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. Did you enjoyed you stay up there the whole weekend, or
came back Sunday? Got back middle of the afternoon Sunday and played a little golf yesterday, but certainly enjoyed my time on the plains. Got to visit with some old friends. Made it to Publix.
I was going to ask.
I had one hang up at Publix this time. It's not a deal breaker. It just caught me off guard. Of course, when I go in there, I share. When I go in there, the first thing I do is go get my fountain drink.
Right.
And they were out of ice. It could have just happened. They had not had a chance to refill it, but I was shocked that it was out of ice. So I didn't get it.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Went and got my grain, pulled the next bag up, went to the fruit section. Hey, they don't even carry the devil's fruit.
They don't.
It could be out of season. I don't know much about pineapple, but they had to cut up stuff that I went with, in pace a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
But as far as on a stem, no, they don't even carry it, that was pleasing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was pleasing to me.
Sherry Weaver says she got a new bird Sunday.
Uh-oh. I tell you what, the bird flew at the game Saturday.
Yeah.
And he got fairly close to us. And I don't know if you've been in the presence of that bird. It's huge.
I've seen
big
pictures of when they bring them to the schools. Yeah. I've seen pictures of
big,
yeah,
big
they're big.
Golly, they're big.
I'm guessing you hollered incoming and probably hit the deck.
Well, I kind of leaned back in my seat, and he went on about his business, and I let him.
Good morning, Earl Crook. I don't blame you. I don't blame you a bit. I tell you what, though, another thing, we'll move on from the weekend, sports weekend. Another thing I was kind of shocked at, I guess you would say, Clemson, and talking about that loss, seems like that since they lost the defensive coordinator, they've not been the same team.
Venables, yeah. He's at Oklahoma.
Yeah, they've not been the same team.
They haven't looked quite right now this is one game. They still a long ways to go, but they didn't look right at all last year.
No.
And they certainly wasn't an impressive start.
Not at all. Good morning, Lori Duke. Jordan
Whopper did come out with the updated top 5, and there's that's a fluid situation, as we mentioned.
Well, we're going to hit that today, or are we going to wait till Friday?
We normally release it on Monday, but we were off yesterday, so
we're going to hit it today.
We can hit it today.
Also, it's Tech Tip Tuesday, brought to us by our good friends at Provalis.
Yeah.
Not just here in Brewton, but I don't know exactly how many locations. When we were talking,
I know of 2 others, and I think there's 2 others being
right. I know the way Will talk. He'd been all over the country scoping out different places, and so they're also Tuesdays they do interviews. I think is it most all day?
I think it's all day, open interview day. Yep.
So if you those of you that may be looking for a job or upgrading or that kind of thing, I'm going to tell you this. It's a lot going on in that place.
Yes, it is. Might be a good opportunity. If not for you, for someone you know.
That's right, for sure. So, good morning, Tracy Miller. And, I was sitting thinking about this whole, the tech tip thing today. And I want to tell you, I get asked this question a lot, so I'm just going to throw this out here for everybody real quick. And everybody can comment in the comments. iPhone or Android? Which is your choice? And then once we get through that, once we see some comments, I'll move into a little bit more about that. But
that's a good question. I'm looking forward to hearing more on that. I've only had one, but evidently there are differences. And I don't know what they are, but I'm looking forward to getting into that conversation.
They are, and look, and I'm gonna tell you like this: it's like a Ford versus Chevy thing.
Yeah,
I mean, you got people that'll fight on both sides of that fence.
So there's not really a wrong answer. I guess it comes down to personal preference. Maybe there is.
I mean, look, there's no wrong answer, okay, but there's certainly pros and cons to both sides. And, so, anyway, good morning, Temple Kinley. Yes, and good morning, Lisa McGraw. And I'm glad Temple said it. The weather was just fantastic, was it not?
It was great. I'm telling you, man. I don't know where
couldn't have drew it up any better.
I don't know what it was like here or on the coast or where people took in their Labor Day weekend, but in Auburn, Alabama, it was perfect overcast. You knew it wasn't going to rain, but the sun just didn't beat you down. There was somewhat of a breeze constantly. I mean, it was great.
No,
it was great.
It was definitely weather for outdoor whatever.
Have we gotten past the heat wave? Or I know it's going to be some more days where it'll be hot. I get that. It's liable to be hot on Christmas. But I mean, have we gotten past where it was just weeks and weeks of just bruising, days and afternoons?
You'd like to think so.
Yeah. But you never say never.
But you never say never around here because, we could walk outside and it be 300.
Yeah.
So, who knows? But I hope we are.
Yeah.
I would think that, moving into September, maybe we aren't looking for some more of that kind of just straight heat wave stuff. But again, that's one of those things that you just don't really ever, it's hard to say. So, I'll just go out on there. Keith, hey, good morning to you. Lisa McGraw said it was great to be in Auburn.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Let's just take it from here. The majority answered with Android.
And that surprised me. I didn't know that was would be the case. But once again, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Well, and
because I know nothing.
I'll say this. The next question I would ask is, I see people in a lot of comments here, Android only. They wouldn't have it. And you see the few Apple iPhone folks that's what they have. That's all they would have. Like I said, it's a Ford versus Chevy kind of thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. But there's a few things about the two that can be a lot different. There's a few things that they're a lot alike on. But the next question I would have is this, and you can comment down in the comments. What makes you an Android or, as Ashley said, specifically a Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy phone? What makes you an Android phone person versus an iPhone, or what makes you an iPhone versus Android?
Here's the only thing I know about the two, and I probably won't explain it in a way that makes sense to anybody. I have several friends that I went to Auburn with who are Android users. And when we're on a group text, I get and receive messages differently as opposed to those of us who have an iPhone. So I don't know why that is. Maybe you'll get to that. Maybe you won't. But that's the only thing I know about them.
Well, so one thing that has always struck me about Android phones.
What do you have?
I have an iPhone.
Okay.
And I've had several iterations of iPhone. And the one thing that's always struck me about an Android phone versus an iPhone is if you are a Windows PC user, meaning you're so used to using a Windows-based computer, you're probably going to love an an Android phone.
Okay.
Only because you're walking around with basically a Windows PC in your pocket or your purse. That's what it is. I mean, it's just a Android operating system is based off of the Windows somewhat operating system. So, but there's a lot of different reasons people like Android versus iPhone. And Android, a lot of times, especially Samsung, their version of those phones, they like to stay ahead with cameras and, all these things that they'll do with the cameras. If you like, photography and all of this, Android phones tend to be less expensive than iPhones. So, when I say that, I don't mean they're any less quality. It's just, they just tend to be less expensive.
Yeah.
Now here's the big thing for me, and I'm going to talk about the iPhone user. Okay. An iPhone user is used to being able to hit that app and do what you want to do. Now, Android users are going to say, well, we do the same thing. We have the yes and no, because here's the problem. And this is kind of why I was wanting to get into this. Everybody worries about security, right? Everybody worries about your data and your privacy being breached, meaning, you got credit card information, all these things on these phones. I've said this 100 times, said it 1,000, said it 100,000 times. Anything connected can be got to. I don't care. I don't care. Okay. But the point being that every hack that you ever see on the news, online, whatever, good guys, white hats or black hat hackers. Okay. White hats are the good guys, black hats, the bad guys. No matter what, though, who you see, those most 99% of them are using a Linux-based system, and they're hacking Windows or Android phones. And that is a fact, because iPhone, iOS, Mac OS is based off of old school Macintosh OS, which is nothing more than, at the base of it, a Linux-based start. That's where they got started, and they're tough. Security-wise, I'm just going to tell you, like it or not, security, you are much, much more secure on an iPhone than you are Android. And that's correct, Miss Diane. There are tons more Android users.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Tons more.
I saw it kind of on our informal poll here this morning, and that surprised me. I didn't know that was the case.
There are tons more Android users. But a lot of the reason why there are tons more Android users, number one, it's what you get. I think Donald Thompson said it. It's what you get used to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people started out with Android phones, be it a Google Pixel or be it a Samsung or, just what have you.
I don't know if it's Samsung or I don't know if it's Google, but one of them do offer the flip phone option.
That's right.
I saw that.
Motorola.
Okay.
Motorola's got a phone back out that is the flip phone. Yeah. Now, I'm not all that familiar with that phone. But as far as secure goes, I mean, look, it's much more secure. Now, people love the back button on Android. When they say back, if you ever do anything on like Safari on an iPhone, you click back. Sometimes it can give you a little headache here or there. But the only problem is that that's all, and there again, it's back to personal preference. It's what you like, what you don't like. the big thing is that with Android phones versus an iPhone, typically you're going to see a lot more apps that are available that do a lot more things because Apple is so locked down on their iPhone. Paul says it's actually 58% iPhone to 41. I'll tell you, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'll tell you, if that is the case, that's shocking because iPhone has never had that kind of market share. Never. I mean,
I really didn't know that Droids had that big of a footprint. Evidently, they have.
Well, let me ask you this. So let me ask you this. So you mentioned it just then, earlier. You mentioned that when you're texting in this group and you're people in the group that have Android phones, they show up different than the people that have iPhones. And you said you don't know why that is. So here's the reason why. An iPhone will talk to another iPhone using iMessage. Okay? iMessage is just the program in the message app that iPhone uses to talk to another iPhone.
Okay.
Or another iPad or a Mac computer.
Okay.
If you're talking to someone that has an Android phone, they don't have iMessage. They just have MMS, SMS, they call it whatever, but that's what the kind of message it is. So it's going to show up. I mean, I think it's green instead of, it's got a green background versus a blue background. So, that's what the deal is. The difference is it's just because iPhones use a different code, if you will, than what Androids do to send messages.
Okay.
Now, here's my only issue with that. I don't know why they don't all get together and figure all that out and just make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's a proprietary thing, but still, I don't know why they don't do that. Secondly, let's see. Holly said she had the original Droid phone and never could figure that thing out. Hey, that's a good point. Let's see. Messenger video call Android, which is FaceTime. Right. But here's the deal. Okay. I mean, you can use Messenger, talking about Facebook Messenger or what have you, for a video call. That's true. But you're going through Facebook. Okay. No matter what anybody said or says, we all know what Facebook and some of these other places do with what they do. And I'm not dogging Facebook. We're on Facebook right now. So all I'm saying is that's just the way it is. Good morning, Kay Luttrell. But at the end of the day, here's the big thing. We, as phone users of all kinds, okay, we all have to realize that, everybody likes what they like. Everybody uses what they use. But there's about 4 or 5 different things you can do, no matter if it's an iPhone or an Android phone. Do you use your phone a lot in the course of the day with business and a lot of that, correct?
Correct.
When you get home, do you immediately have to put your phone on the charger, or is it later on that night? What do you typically find?
It's usually later that night. I usually put it on before I go to bed.
Because it lasts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Do you use Bluetooth on that phone at all?
Not intentionally.
But I mean, you don't, if you have a Bluetooth like
no
AirPods or what have you.
No.
So here's the thing. What I have found is that Android phones typically don't last as long battery wise as iPhones. Now, that's not to say there aren't some that do. This is not a blanket statement. But if you'll turn Bluetooth off, which most people don't, they just leave it on. If you turn Bluetooth off, even on iPhone, that battery is going to last a lot longer, a whole lot longer. Look, my biggest gripe with Android phone, if you want to call it a gripe, is this. And again, it gets back to what you're used to, but they're not real. Everybody says, well, they're easy. I don't find Android to be that easy to use. I mean, I'm telling you, I've worked with both of them. You can add email to an iPhone. How long did it take me to add that to your phone? I mean, 30 seconds?
Maybe a minute at the most. Yeah. Probably seconds.
Yeah. So That's not the case with Android. And I'm just telling you, because you're going to have to sit there, especially if you're using like Office 365 or if you're using an IMAP server, some of this, it's going to take a while to go through and get those settings in there and get it to validate and verify and be on that phone. So, and the next thing, if I'm just being totally honest about it, and yeah, and I'm not saying it won't, Charles. That's what I said. It's not a blanket statement. That's just one thing. There's a few other things in there you can turn off as well. Remember this. You know, do you ever see, and this is the telltale sign, do you ever see the government on TV begging an Android phone company to unlock the phone because some bad person did something on a phone that they need to get into? The answer to that question is no. But you do with an iPhone. Because
does that just speak to the security?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, you know, why you think that, you know, the reason that is, if you think the government could break it, you think they'd be on there on TV publicly asking Apple to help them? You know, I don't think so. So now, I will say this as well. Android users are going to jump up and start raising Cain about that statement, but that's just the truth. I mean, you know, look, there are people in this world, and I'm not saying it can't be done on iPhone because it can, but there are people in this world that can turn on a camera and a microphone on an Android phone in about 15 seconds. Bad actors. Okay? And listen and watch everything you do. And I'm telling you, it literally takes that long. It's all over the internet how to do it. Just Google it. You get 4 or 5 million hits. Okay? And Google iPhone and see how far that gets you. I mean, it's just not going to get you very far. And it's not. You know, Sam Adams, that's why most companies went to iPhones. Well, and look, let's be honest. Apple is a more expensive product. They cost more than an Android phone does. And that is just a fact. Now, listen, this is not to speak to the user. I'm speaking to the actual hardware, the product, phone, the product. No, I'm speaking to the user. Everybody loves what they love. I love what I love. Look, you're a Ford person, you're a Chevy person, you're a Dodge person, you're a Toyota person. I mean, there's all, you know, look, Alabama, Auburn. I mean, we could keep going. You know what I mean? That's it. It's just what it is, okay? But here's the biggest thing that you hear from people that don't want to get an iPhone. It's, I don't know how to use one, especially when you set a Mac computer, a MacBook or a Mac desktop computer in front of them. I don't want one. I don't know how to use it. Do you know what the only difference in a Mac computer and a Windows computer? Well, there's two differences, main differences. Number one, the first one being the Apple computer is 1,000,000 times to 1,000,000,000 more % secure. Okay. Period. End of story. That's not up for debate. That's not up for debate. Okay. Number two, instead of the X being on the right-hand corner, the X out of a window, it's on the left on a Mac. Okay. And if you can use an iPhone, you'd be surprised how many iPhone users I've had look at me and say, I don't know how to use this Mac computer. It's a giant iPhone. There's apps on it, just like you have. I could put this computer in front of you and you wouldn't have any problem using it. None. Because it is what it is. It's just a big iPhone. Okay. So, but now listen, Sherry Weaver said it best. You get what you pay for. Good morning, Deacon. Good morning, Lewis High Note. Good morning, Mother.
Good morning, Miss James.
And again, I'm simply saying that this has nothing to do with the user. This has everything to do with the hardware. Okay. Now, there's this little country called Israel that has this little program called Pegasus that can get into any phone or any digital device, communication device on the planet. Stone cold fact. And this is public. You look, this is on Google. I mean, you don't have any trouble finding it. So it's not anything I'm putting out there. That's a fact. All that being said, every day I have somebody ask me, what can I do? That's a great point, Sherry Weaver. You know how many Mac computers you got to put antivirus on, or iPhones or anything like that? 0. None.
Just built-in security.
It's built in. Okay. When you get a new Windows computer, it comes preloaded with some sort of antivirus program on it because you're going to need it. I mean, it's not if, it's when. Okay. And again, I'm not dogging on them. So understand, this is not me making a personal, this is not personal, me being personal about it. This is me just stating facts. I mean, you can look as you said, Whopper is what it is. It's fair. You can look all this up. Yeah. I mean, this is not something I've decided to, just make up. You can look all this stuff up. Couldn't even submit papers to professors because, okay, so here's the thing.
Now, why would you do that? Why would you want to submit a paper to a professor?
I know. I can't even understand that. But here's the thing. I agree that back in the day, a lot of companies did not and were not on the Mac platform, if you will. So they had a lot of trouble with people that used Mac computers and the talking of Windows and Mac back and forth.
What product came out first?
Well,
which one was the response?
So Wozniak built Windows.
Okay.
And Bill Gates stole it from Steve Jobs and Wozniak.
Okay.
That's legit. That happened.
Okay.
I mean, Windows was built by Apple, what turned into be Apple.
Right.
But Bill Gates was a buddy of theirs. He stole that program from them and went and started Microsoft.
He saw the opportunity.
Yeah. So Wozniak just backed up and said, hey, that was actually a bad design anyway. So he went and took and started off with a different source code, and he built a better, in his mind, a better operating system. Now, I mean, think about it. What was the first personal computer that went into people's homes? Was it an Apple or was it a Windows-based machine? I can tell you it was neither. Without even asking, because most people get this wrong, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's true. IBM was the first company that ever made a personal computer.
Okay.
But guess what operating system was on it? Windows. Okay. Why do you think that all during the 80s and 90s, the craze, when you bought a personal computer, a laptop, whatever, why do you think that Windows was in every one of those computers? Because the way that Bill Gates did what they did was, I mean, they set it up to where if you didn't have Windows, as somebody said a while ago, the company, it wouldn't, or I think Ashley did, it wasn't going to work with it. Well, they were right. But that was by design. So, anyway, I can tell you it was Whopper.
I was gonna work it in there. Thank God that was put in government surplus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and a lot of that has changed today. I mean, but this is what I was really mainly wanting to get into, and I had to go through all that to say what I'm about to say. Every one of us know the struggle that is a charger, the cord. Mm-hmm. Okay. Apple has had this crazy lightning in connector on the end of their chargers since, well, they had the big charger first, and then they went to the lightning somewhere in the iPhone, 4 or 5, whenever it was. But with the next iteration of iPhone, it has to be USB-C because worldwide, that's what the standard is now, and every company is being forced to go to USB-C. Now, one thing I can say about a lot of Android phones is that's what they've used and been using is USB-C charging. That's one disadvantage Apple has had, and they obviously they've done it to make money. I mean, think about it. If it's all USB-C, then you can walk in anywhere and buy one.
Yeah.
Now, you're like, what is USB-C?
Right.
It's the same thing as what you got to charge your phone. It's just a different end on it.
I thought it was a football conference.
At any rate, I'll tell you this. But I can say this, and I think everybody on here would agree. Whatever you like is what you need to be using. Just remember this. Whatever you use, just make sure that if you're going to store credit card information on it and things like that, make sure you do all you can do to be secure with it.
Let me ask you this. You may have already answered it. Who made it to market first, iPhone or Droid, in terms of offering a cell phone?
Well, Android, obviously.
Okay.
But
so iPhone was a response
no,
to an Android.
iPhone was a response to BlackBerry.
Okay.
Because BlackBerry was there before anybody.
Okay.
We all remember the BlackBerry phones
sure.
with the full keypad on it, and the buttons you actually pushed and all that stuff. Everybody remembers those. Okay. So iPhone and the apps and the way they worked was in response to the BlackBerry.
Okay.
Now, let me say this about a BlackBerry. Do you know why that up until 2015 or 14 or 15, I may be wrong on my years, maybe 12 or 13. Do you know why every person with these top secret clearances in the government used BlackBerry phones?
I think everybody knows that I don't.
Well, Potsy, listen, every time I ever called somebody, you've been my technical advisor.
Yeah.
So, but they use BlackBerry because of security. Because BlackBerry, and that's why iPhone has the security it has on it, because it was an answer to that. BlackBerry was secure.
Did you have a BlackBerry?
I did.
Okay.
Loved them, but they just, they couldn't compete in a market with Samsung and iPhone, Apple, whatever, and it just, they couldn't compete. I mean, it was a great product, but when you have tactile hardware buttons on something and all of a sudden you've got a computer in your pocket that you can use and just, touch screen. I mean, but you'd be surprised how many people go and try to find BlackBerries to use today. I mean, that's a fact, because they are that secure. So, I just wanted to bring that up on one of these Tech Tip Tuesdays, because I have a lot of people ask me all the time, well, why do you like one over the other? I can tell you pros and cons, and look, I don't want to get too deep in it, that's why I'm not, but I mean, I can tell you pros and cons about both. I can just tell you that a lot of people love Android for reasons that are really more so just that's what they're used to, and they're cheaper. They are. Apple, putting that Apple on that thing, they charge you a premium for that Apple on it. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, that's the truth. So, good morning, Aaron Anderson.
Good morning, Ace.
Lori says she still has her BlackBerry in a drawer. There you go.
Do they still serve a purpose?
I'm sure they would. I don't know if they have a network that, would run. I mean, and that's all, getting, and I think, and Diane's son, I think he works for Verizon. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
He works for one of the cell companies, and he could probably speak to that, or more so than I could. It seems like that back 10 years ago, there was a bunch of choices out there. Now there's like only a few. And when I say choices, you got to realize if it's not AT&T or Verizon, T-Mobile, all these other companies, and maybe with the exception of a few, they're all using either AT&T, Verizon, GoPro, that's what it is, AT&T, Verizon towers. That's a fact. Or even if it's not their towers, they may be using their system.
Okay.
They're just reselling it. I mean, the worst thing I ever did was not getting involved with that long distance telephone company stuff back in the day that you could buy into and invest in. Remember when people would sell these long distance cards?
I think so.
They would go to AT&T and they'd buy like 100,000 long distance phone call hours and resell them. But they were buying in bulk so they could buy them cheap. So, Allie says she loved the Razor and the BlackBerry. Only traded in because they can't FaceTime. I mean, FaceTime's a big thing for people. And it's easy to use. I mean, that's just like this. Zoom. I know you're familiar with Zoom meetings, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Google has the same thing called Google Meet or something like that on the Google side of what Google does, but they've never been able to get a footing like Zoom. Now, the other side of Zoom is Skype, which is owned by Microsoft. But when Zoom came out, especially during the pandemic, Zoom took over. And Skype kind of fell down some. So, anyway, Potsy, you think we got all that cleared up about your text group that you were talking about? Or,
yeah. I mean, I just, yes.
I will say this as well. Everybody remember the beep beep phones?
Yeah.
Now those, the beep beep part of them, you know, the Nextels, the Southern Links, you know, all this stuff, those phones tended to be really secure. They also tended to be really strong. Okay. Especially if you had one of the bigger phones.
Yes.
Which we call, you know, bricks.
The brick,
Even though the original brick was a big brick Motorola cell phone. But the brick Southern Links were 1 watt phones versus 0.00 whatever 1 watt of these cell phones we use now. So that's why you had a lot better service with those types of phones than you do with a regular cell phone. And you got, you know, Teams that's a relatively new thing. I don't mean the last few years, D-Tom, but it's a relatively new thing that Microsoft has. But there again, that's part of the whole Microsoft ecosystem. Okay. Good morning, Willie Campbell.
Morning, Coach.
So, I mean, that's all part of that, and it goes to the same thing, which is if you like Microsoft, you know, Office products, Word, Outlook. You know, I use Outlook for email. I use the mail app for email. I've used a lot of them. If you want secure email, super secure, as secure as you can be secure, go download Proton Mail and put it on your phone. I mean, you can put your email address on it.
Yeah.
But Proton Mail, trust me, that's a tough one.
Okay. How long has it been around?
It's been around a little while.
Okay.
But if you need super secure, you know, that's what you do. It is, Paul. Paul said Teams is currently the government preferred meeting platform. It is, but there are a lot of reasons for that, none of which are anything to do with money. It's actually all to do with that.
No.
So, hey, that's a fact. D-Top said, if you remember, the only thing that worked after Ivan was the Southern Link.
That's the truth. Here, that's the truth.
Wonder why that was.
Power companies?
Well, yeah, but power companies have power lines. Okay, so I wonder why that was.
I don't know.
Because every Southern Link tower, every tower that had Southern Link on it, all the lines that went to that tower were buried. They also had a generator house sitting next to that tower that would run no matter what. And that's how they kept that service going. You couldn't use a cell phone on it, It didn't work, but you could use that beep beep phone.
Thank God we had it.
Oh, man. Could you imagine?
Dead in the water without it.
How many of y'all used to count them minutes up, and when rollover minutes came out, you were like, oh, man, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, I will tell you, you remember back in the day, an unlimited plan was, it was tough. It was a car payment.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about $300 or $400, $500 a month, depending on what plan, what provider you're with. Some of those things were stupid. Think about how much it used to cost to text.
Well, see, this may surprise you. It may not. I was very late to the cell phone game. Very late.
Well, I'm not surprised by that. I know you had a flip phone up until about, 5 years ago?
That's about right.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was the best phone I ever had. Seriously.
I don't doubt it.
I mean, these things drive me crazy.
Well, and they can. But they're also great to use. I mean, who'd ever thought you'd be walking around? Everybody remembers Star Trek when they pull that thing out and flip it open.
Yeah.
Make that little noise and they start talking.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving it back.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't go back.
Ain't nobody getting this from me.
Yeah.
But it does drive me crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Proton Mail for email. They have anything for my Netflix account? I'm running out of password. Trust me, Proton Mail is great. I can assure you, and it is very secure. So that's a great question, D-Top. How many of y'all actually have a landline at your home?
I do not.
I do not. Now, I know a lot of people that, I know a lot of people that still do. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Good morning, Renee Peebles. That's a great, that's a great question. Paul says he's got a landline. Make your password. Oh, I mean, so you want to hear how 99% of the people get, and I hate this term, hacked. You want to hear how 99% of the people in countries and all this in the world, you know how they get hacked? Because of putting easy, dumb passwords. I'm not saying they're dumb, saying that's what they call them.
Yeah.
Easy, dumb passwords. I mean, but
it does astonish me that there are people that are paid to sit around and figure out what these passwords are for all these different accounts. That astonishes me that they can.
Well, here's the thing.
They can do that.
It doesn't. If you realize that there are word banks that you can go on Google and download in an Excel file, CSV file, that have millions of passwords in them, and you stick it into a Hashcat, which is a password cracker, in about 3 minutes, it'll crack it.
Wow.
You know why? Because all these passwords are short, small, and easy. I'm telling you, if you don't make a password at least 20 characters long and have all these crazy characters in it, somebody can get in it.
Wow.
I mean, there are devices out there. I'm not saying that I own any, so let me say that up front. I don't want people leaving here thinking that I do. There are devices out there that you could have walked in Jordan Hare Stadium or Bryant Denny Stadium Saturday, flipped a switch in your pocket, and shut down all communication in that stadium. Just like that.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, I hope nobody ever does that.
I don't know why they would, but I'm saying they're available.
Yeah.
And what I mean is they're available on Amazon.
Wow. Well, then it's going to happen. Some jackass is going to do it.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see, Kelly Castleberry. He still has a landline. Good morning, Angela Capers. Elizabeth Bush says she's still got a landline. Miss Diane says Shine keeps asking her why. Well, listen, I mean, I can see, no, I'm not at all, actually, for sure. No, not at all. But I can see why some people would want a landline. Here's the only problem. All most landlines, even with AT&T now, even though they may still have old school phone cable coming in, to your house, most all of them are using voice over IP, which is nothing more than a cell phone just on a base. I mean, that's what they all mostly use. I'm not saying everybody, but because certain areas, they don't have the reach to be able to get out like that. But a lot of these phones are just voice over IP phones. So, and with that, I will say this, 2 things. Number one, process it. Number one, if you have any questions, if you want to know, like if you want to get down a rabbit hole, hey, send me a message on Facebook and I'll send you anything you want to see about whatever it is you need to see. But number 2, the one thing that I can tell you is without communication, you can't do anything. When you were EMA director, if you, during Ivan, if you couldn't have, if you and your team, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the EMA director during Ivan, correct?
Correct.
If you and your team could not have communicated without being in front of each other, how much more of a hamper would that have put on your efforts in helping this community or all communities you were involved with?
Well, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to give you a little background on that.
Okay.
Leading up to that storm coming into the area, we would have countywide meetings daily. And this went on for 4 or 5 days, everybody making sure that we were going to be in position to respond if we were in the path of the storm. Well, during all those meetings, we got everybody you could imagine their contact information. We got phone numbers, we got fax numbers, we got everything that was, so when it happened, we could call in, check in, coordinate, whatever. All that was based on the premise that we were going to have power and that we were going to be able to call a number and make contact. Well, obviously, that sucker comes in and it's game over. So that what you spent a week building up is now worthless. And it was very simple. If you didn't have a Southern link, you were not in the direct loop. You had to get somebody to go tell somebody to tell somebody because you were out. Without the Southern link there for about 48 hours, there was no other way to get up with anybody. So thankfully, during that time, there was a lot of the critical components that had Southern links in their fleet of communication devices. The sheriff's department did. We did have CB radio. So the volunteer fire departments who were so instrumental in the relief efforts, we were able to communicate with them. Hospitals usually had a Southern link. Certainly the utility companies had Southern link, and we'd get the information about when power was coming up, projections, this, that, and the other. But all that planning went in the garbage can in the first 5 minutes because it was based on the premise that we would be able to fax and or call a landline or a cell phone, and it was done.
So, and that just proves exactly what I was saying, which is you can't communicate, you're in trouble. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to show our age, but if you've never seen the movie Red Dawn, go watch it.
Yeah.
What do the North Koreans do before they come in? They kill communication.
They kill communication.
This is back in the early 80s, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
No cell phones. Yeah. But what couldn't they kill? They couldn't kill them CB radios.
They couldn't kill CB radios.
And they were able to talk that way. Mm-hmm. So I'm only saying that to say the same thing. Southern Link, what have you. If you cut off people's communication and you've won 98% of the battle.
Yeah, it's tough. You can't communicate, it's tough.
It's tough. I mean, tough. But I tell you what's not tough. It's ready for...
It's time.
Yes, it is.
And I think actually, I'm not so sure that this shouldn't be a part of Tech Tuesday just because Whopper ties in to the tech side.
Listen, I think let's move it.
Yeah, let's move it. I think Tuesday ought to be the release date.
I'm telling you this, there's got to be somebody out there that wants to sponsor Whopper.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Burger King.
I have in this infancy, I've come to love Tech Tuesday. I feel a little smarter when I leave here.
Well,
I like the lingo. I like hearing about kilobytes and I love it.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah. Good morning, Megan Ferreira. Oh man. Timmy said everyone needs a ham phone for those future threats. All right, DJ. We're gonna start with number 5.
We're gonna start with number 1, and I want to say this once again.
Okay.
This is fluid. It'll take 5 or 6 weeks for this thing to stabilize and us to get a good idea of who is who and what is what. The top 5 this week does not necessarily mean who Whopper believes is the very best team long term. They believe them to have the very best team today based off the body of work today, which is 1 full week for some teams too. So keep that in mind as we're working through this, and it's going to be fair. It's going to be fluid, and it's going to be fair.
3 things.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 5.
Going number 1. We're starting 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Start again.
Number 1, the Florida State University Seminoles. Unquestionably,
They moved from number 5.
they have the best resume to date. And I understand not a lot of body of work to evaluate from, but FSU's number 1, and they've earned it. Whopper doesn't crown teams. Whopper makes you earn it. Cupcakes aren't recognized. You have to earn it. FSU number 1.
I got to tell you, I wasn't expecting that. I expected them to move up, but I didn't expect that.
It's fair.
Hey, I'm not gonna. Hard to argue with something that is so right. I mean,
It's fair.
Listen, how can it be wrong when it is so right? Number 2.
USC.
The Trojans.
They've played 2 games. Haven't played any monsters yet, but they have Caleb Williams, the returning Heisman Trophy winner. Their offense is on point. Do I think they're going to win it? No. Do I think they're going to get exposed defensively at some point in the near future? Yes. But I agree with Whopper. As of today, right now, they're number 2. They're going to be in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is the power conference. They run college football.
I'm just asking because I don't know the algorithms or the code, the source, or any of that went into building Whopper. Mm-hmm. But the tie-in here has to be more than ironic in that, if I'm not badly mistaken, LSU opens next year with USC.
You wonder why. ESPN don't run everything.
I mean, man, hey, there's no such thing as coincidences. Okay, I mean,
you don't think we don't get out there?
no. Hey, I'm telling you, they see it, they hear it, they feel it, and they know it. Number 3.
We've talked about the Big Ten and how they run college football. We're going to stay in conference, but a new team in the top 5, Penn State.
Woo!
Big win over West Virginia, Power 5 on Power 5. Penn State's got a really, really good football team. When you talk about the Ohio State University, Michigan, Penn State certainly in there. USC's coming next year. Oregon's coming. Washington's coming. It's going to be blood in, blood out. They run it. But Penn State's number 3.
Penn State, number 3.
Yep.
And you're saying that conference is going to be...
They run college football.
So you're putting them above the SEC.
I would say by a wide margin.
Wow. That is a strong statement.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's
they're
strong.
They're top heavy. They're deep. They're they're monsters.
Wow. Number 4.
This is the only one that surprised me of the 5. Georgia. Now, Whopper prides itself on not crowning people. I thought Georgia was very underwhelming this past weekend. In the second game, the score was competitive. There was never a question who was going to win the game, But Georgia had not done anything that was eye-opening or eye-catching to me.
In the first half.
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing.
In the first half, I'm going to tell you something. I'm sitting there going, they're playing UT Martin.
Yeah, so the fact that Georgia came in at 4, slid from 1 last week, was surprising to me. But it is what it is. I just read what's in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, you're just putting out information.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, fair.
And it is what it. All right, so rounding out the top 5 Tuesday, number 5.
This can't surprise anybody. Colorado, 21-point underdog.
The Buffaloes.
They kicked off with the team who played in the mythical national championship game last year and went toe-to-toe with them. Once again, I think Colorado's going to be there at the end. Personally, I don't. But that's one of the things I like about Whopper is they give each and every team a chance to prove it on the field each and every week. And the fact that they come in at number 5, Coach Prime has been the talk of college football through week 1. He's deserved it. They've got a game with Oregon here in a couple of weeks, and that ought to speak volumes.
And there you have it. This Top 5 Tuesday was brought to you by the fine friends at WOPR. If you'd like to subscribe to WOPR, contact DJ. Let him know.
There is a weekly newsletter that goes with it.
I know. I mean, listen, there's a lot of benefits, probably many that he can't actually say live on the air. But you'd be surprised at some of the. Does a Publix trip involve? I mean, does that come with that as well?
It could. It could.
Even with this past weekend's hiccup.
Yeah.
It still could be that. So, good morning there, Butcher.
Monster.
Bobo's play calling at Georgia is appalling.
It's going to be a struggle.
I want to listen. I wanted to ask you, what is your thoughts on the absolute? I don't know if you call it just lack of discipline, but 19 players and or staffers at the Georgia athletic department have been in some sort of trouble, a couple of which were killed in a car wreck.
Tumultuous offseason.
I mean, and listen, the player recruit guy, I can't think of his name, he was arrested Friday night.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. For, guess what? For speeding and reckless driving, which seems to be a recurring theme.
Yeah, they've had some issues on the road over there.
So I'm asking, what do you think's going on there?
I don't know, but if you have one incident, if you have 2 instances, maybe you just chalk it up to.
That's one. I mean, that's yeah.
There's a theme there.
19.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Yeah, I mean that's Denaud. Yeah, I think he played at Georgia and then went on and played in the NFL.
I'll tell you who. What I took away from this weekend that I took enjoyment in, and I don't want this to sound mean-spirited because I'm not. I enjoyed watching South Carolina get beat. I like Beamer. I like him fine. I just think they are overvalued, and I like North Carolina kind of taking them to the woodshed and doing a number on them.
Well, they did. I mean, they took them.
I found myself enjoying that, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I did.
Listen, I'm kind of like you. I've never been that impressed with South Carolina.
I'm not sure there's a dominant team in the SEC. Seriously. I think
so what you're saying is
the Big Ten
you're saying that the Big Ten has some teams in it that are above and beyond the others in the league.
I think so.
But the SEC they don't have that.
I don't know that
they haven't presented themselves yet.
I mean, Tennessee's interesting. We'll see. Texas A&M, interesting. We'll see. I still think LSU's okay. I think that they'll, but we'll see. Auburn, we'll see. Alabama, can you win playing 4 quarterbacks? I don't know. I've never seen it done, but if anybody can, maybe that guy can.
I mean, listen,
We'll see.
If Steve Spurrier couldn't do it using two,
There you go.
then I don't know who else. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who else can. So that was again your top 5 brought to you by the Whopper.
All I do is read it.
Oh yeah,
That's
I mean,
not-
I'm not. This is
What'd you think about it?
listen. The one thing that surprised me was how far FSU jumped from number 5. Now all the props to Whopper because Whopper had FSU picked over LSU.
Where was LSU ranked in all the other polls? They were number 5.
Yeah, they were definitely a number 5.
Clemson was number 9.
Yes,
Clemson got, Clemson,
shellacked.
They had 2 turnovers in the red zone that changed the complexity of that football game. But I mean, Duke went toe to toe with Clemson and didn't blink.
And not even think about it. And when did you think you'd see that?
I mean, I think
if it was basketball, it'd be one thing.
Clemson's a 21-point favorite in that game, by the way.
Wow.
Got beat by 21.
Yeah. Speaking of that, and I was just about to mention what Sherry said. Lost a legend over the weekend.
The Pirate.
I mean, man, what a big time impact that man had on music, on culture.
On culture. I thought it was cool how most of the schools in the South, anyway, paid some kind of tribute to him at the game on Saturday.
I saw that.
That was pretty cool. Now, he was a student at Auburn for a time.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this. I read last night where he didn't want this public until after he passed. But I don't know which ones they are, but 2 of the planes at the Battleship Park, he actually bought and donated to that park.
I did not know that.
I didn't even know he was into that kind of thing, but he did. And they put that out last night that he was involved with a lot of things. And, oh, wow. Listen, I'll tell you now, I mean, think about it. I mean, Jimmy touched a lot of people.
Did you ever see him in concert?
Oh, yeah.
I never did. I'm probably one of the few who didn't. And I found myself, like, I wasn't drawn to him, but I never turned his music off the radio station if it was playing.
Oh, I'm going to tell you
that makes sense.
So I'll tell you a little story, what happened to me. And so odd, because I say odd, but you remember the Wayne Mills band?
I do.
Okay. Well, Wayne Mills got into an altercation up in North Alabama, I believe it was, with a bar club owner or something, and the guy ended up killing him and all this kind of stuff. But I happened to be at the Floribama one weekend. This has been 20-ish years ago. And the Wayne Mills band was playing out under the tent. This is back before Ivan and all that kind of mess tore everything up down there. And they got this, they said, hey, we're going to let a buddy of ours get up and play with us and play a few songs and this kind of thing. And man, this old guy gets up. I say old guy, this old gray-haired guy, had an old shaggy gray beard. And he gets up there and they start playing and they go play through a few cover tunes and they play through a few Jimmy Buffett tunes and they play a few other tunes. And when it was, when the guy was done playing, Wayne Mills said, everybody give it up for Mr. Jimmy Buffett. And Jimmy took his hat off and I guess it was just like a wig attached to that hat or something. And he took that off, and sure enough, it was Jimmy
Nobody
Buffett.
knew.
Nobody knew.
Wow.
Wayne Mills knew.
Yeah, right.
Obviously. But
that's cool.
But that happened, and he got up and played, and of course they did a 3 or 4. Now they didn't do them all in a row because I think that might have, kind of gave the ghost up that because when he started singing, I remember looking at Catfish and I said, "Hey man, that man could like impersonate Jimmy Buffett. That man sounds just like Jimmy Buffett." That's exactly what I said to. Come to find out, it was him.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my small part to honor him today. I'm going to have a cheeseburger for lunch.
A cheeseburger in paradise.
I am.
Yeah. Listen,
I just made my mind up. I'm gonna do that.
I think we all should do that.
I'm gonna go to David's Catfish and have mine.
I think we all should do that. We all should have a cheeseburger in paradise. But
We'll do it.
You think about it. I don't know that Jimmy. I didn't realize it was later on, kind of in life when Jimmy got into music, if you will. It's not something. I'm not saying he didn't grow up with music. I'm saying, but I don't think he got into it until kind of later on. And you think about the body of work that he has, and he left.
He left a legacy.
I mean, when they say there'll never be another one, that's the truth.
Iconic.
There'll never be another Jimmy Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, look, when
was his last live performance? I mean, has it been in 2023?
I don't know. I'm sure somebody in the listening audience, if you could move left to right on your radio dial and type in, I don't know. I don't know if he performed any in 23 or not. I'm trying to think of when I read that he had been fighting this for 4 years.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Now, I don't know if that meant Temple said he did a show in May.
Well, there you go.
I want to tell you something now. That's a trooper. I mean, especially what he was, a real rare form of skin cancer. Yeah. Learn how to play guitar when he was at Auburn. That's what I read. That's what he did. D. Tom said he was always told he sang at Old Willie's up on the stage. I don't know. I'm not sure on that either. Speaking of that, is there anything in Old Willie's?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean,
I think it is set up as. I mean, I think it's a turn. I think there's plates, silverware, flatware, all that stuff's in there.
Okay, so
set up.
So let's back up a few years if we can, real quick. There you go. Bart says a show in May in the Hamptons.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah. So, but let's back up a few years. The guy that kept the sign hanging up forever and a day, we talked about it. He was going to open a restaurant there. Mm-hmm. He had spent piles of money in that place. I mean, from what I understand, I had been in it. You may have been in it.
I haven't been in it. No, I haven't been in it.
But he spent piles of money, ripped a lot of stuff out, fixed the plumbing or sewer, something. I think he fixed everything that was it called Joel's or something like that? It was going to be. He had a place in Pensacola as well.
I knew he had a place in Pensacola, but the name escapes me.
Well, my question is this. I kind of like understand what you said. Yeah, I remember the city. Now, look, I think they should have on that building for this reason. That building, as far as it, from what I was told by several people that worked in there, that sewer system, as you well know, you go in that men's bathroom on Friday or Saturday night, and it was water all over the floor.
Now, let me say this with regards to the city money. And this is what I know of the situation. That happened before I came on the council in 2020. But I think there was money set aside that he could have tapped into had he opened. From what I've been told, there was never a transfer of funds.
Oh, he never did because he didn't open.
No,
okay.
It was committed to him.
Yeah.
But it never opened, so
I got you.
It wasn't used.
Well, let me say this too. And look, this is a good time to bring this up. Bruton is not the only small town that has funding that has been provided for downtown revitalization. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Revitalization? Yeah. And you can speak to that more so than I can, but I mean, Bruton, Alabama is not the only small town that has been provided that opportunity, mm-hmm. is it?
No.
So, I agree with what Sherry's saying. That building, Old Willie's is Old Willie's, man. You know what I mean? Like, it just boggles the mind that that place isn't open and doing business and D-Top asked, I wonder, is the Long Bar, I wonder if it's still in there.
It is.
It is.
Oh yeah. It's
what we imagine as old Willie's is still there.
Yeah, you walk in.
So the guts, the skeleton, all that's still there.
You walk through and it's you walked into a time machine. It's the exact same way. There's flatware, there's plates. The hostess station is right there in the door to the left. It's exactly the way you remember.
You know, I just can't understand why somebody hadn't taken the opportunity to either move into that or you know, if you had an existing restaurant here or something. And look, I get it, parking and all that kind of stuff. But look, I mean, let's all be honest. Parking situation a lot different down there now than what it used to be.
It is. I think a piece of the puzzle is also this. There was a prominent family member who used to own that building. And I think when Willie's was Willie's, I think they had a very, very favorable lease agreement.
Okay.
Very favorable lease agreement. I think they would tell you that.
Okay.
And then when the ownership of the building changed hands, you're no longer able to secure that kind of rent on that kind of building. So, and I'm not, if your rent went from $100 to $3,100 a month, that could very well represent your profitability in the court. I'm not saying that's the exact numbers. I'm just saying, you were basically,
look,
there was a prominent family member who said, I want a business in there. I'm not overly concerned about rental revenue.
Sure.
Rental revenue. Yeah. So I think that's changed. And I think that's been a big piece of the puzzle.
We've said this before. I'm going to say it again. This city misses some of that.
Oh, yeah.
I say some of it.
Yeah.
This is a lot of it.
Yeah.
But with that being said, who does own that building?
I'm not sure.
But it's nobody local.
No.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know. So downtown on the boardwalk, is the Ritz still there? What used to be called the Ritz?
Yeah.
Is it still?
Provalis is using that.
Okay.
They have some of their operations.
Okay, so it's not available as a venue anymore. I thought I knew I thought a business at one time was in it. I didn't realize it was Provalis.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, that makes sense. Ashley says we need to open up Drive Time Bar and Grill. I want to tell you something. I take my hat off, and I mean this. I take my hat off to people like the Josh Godwins, the Chef Adams, and I'm missing a lot of people, but Sarju and a lot of these people that have restaurants and things like that. Man, listen, that's tough. That's a tough business to be in. I mean, you're depending on other people to go out and wait on customers, and you hope that they don't go out there and tell them what they really think about them when they have to start dealing with irate customers. This day and age, people are pretty prone to do that kind of thing. I mean, I saw a video the other night on TikTok, no joke, where this woman was pitching a fit in a McDonald's because she bought a Happy Meal and they was out of the boxes to put the Happy Meals in.
Ugh.
She's pitching a fit. She have a kid.
Yeah.
She's buying a Happy Meal for herself.
She wanted that box.
She wanted that box. I mean, she was pitching a fit. So, listen, I think Bruton is blessed with a lot of great restaurants.
Yeah.
We are, but I'm just saying, I'm talking about the nostalgic part, the whole thing of that building being in that curve, Y, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there was just, Friday nights and Saturday nights, there was just certain people that you just knew you were going to go see. It was like Cheers.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, if I had the dang music, I'd play it. Yeah. I mean, but that's what it was it not?
It was.
So, I've been curious about that. Maybe is there any way y'all could eminent domain that thing?
I don't know. Maybe something worth looking into.
I mean, think about it. If y'all just eminent domained it and said, hey, it's in a flood zone, we just decide we're going to take it and we're going to do something with it. And because you can't get insurance, or you maybe could, but you couldn't afford it, especially with the rent and what you're trying to get. I don't know, but hey, That may be good. For this group, all you need is a bartender, microwave for the salsa, and you're good. Hey, and a popcorn popper.
You'd have it licked.
Hey, I will say this, we got to go. If anything that I learned, the two things that I learned in working in the car business for a long time, when the popcorn poppers went in, and popcorn started being popped and that smell permeated the building, it changed things, did it not?
It does, yeah.
Was it not the new water fountain?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that was good for productivity or efficiency. Sorry, Chip. But, I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, it's just the way it is. So, hey, what is that? Miss Diane said that's where she met Sean.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. That was a match made right there. That was, what was it? How many years was it the other day? They just celebrated an anniversary?
One of the big ones.
Several.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good testament,
Yes, absolutely.
All right, DJ, we got to go.
Been a great Tuesday morning. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. 4-day work week. We'll get this thing knocked out and into the weekend. If you have some time to waste tomorrow, jump back in here and we'll do it again. Y'all have a good day.